Hello, my name is Mike Winder. I'm with Salt Lake City-based Zions Bank. We're one of the sponsors, and welcome to Utah. We're thrilled to have you here. I was asked to make a few predictions about the future and have a little bit of fun with it. So here we go. Do you realize it costs 1.7 cents to manufacture one U.S. penny? We've been underwater for about 5 years now, and I predict that within 10 years, even the idiots in Congress will realize it's not worth losing millions of dollars a year on making pennies and the hassle in commerce it creates. So bye-bye penny within 10 years. I predict that The Martian will win big at the Oscars. I predict that within 10 years, we will have a McDonald's franchise in Havana, Cuba, and Tehran, Iran, and it will contribute greatly to global peace and stability per Thomas Friedman's Golden Arches theory of diplomacy, that any country with a McDonald's does not have an all-out war, at least, with another country with a McDonald's because of the interdependent economies.
Interesting.
I also predict Kanye West will not run for president in 2020, despite what he said. And speaking of politics, I predict that as we go through the United States Republican nomination process over the next few months, there's so many big egos, very few will drop out. There's a lot of money in the race because of super PACs, thanks to Citizens United. And we will arrive at a point in Cleveland, Ohio next July at the Republican convention where not a single candidate will have a majority of the delegates, and we'll have the first brokered Republican convention since 1976. In that situation, there's even a possibility for people not currently on the ballot to be drafted as the party's standard bearer. So hang on for that one. I also predict that we will solve climate change in this century, and it may not be from ways that we think. And let me give you an example of this. When you look at the way the planet's been warming over the last few decades, the one time it's been actually cooling was in 1991 after Mount Pinatubo erupted in the Philippines, and the ash went up in the air and provided a cooling effect for the planet for that year. We have interesting things going on like intellectual ventures up in Bellevue, Washington that are creating a stratoshield which is designed to spray sulfur-bearing aerosol in the atmosphere near the poles to replicate the cooling effect of volcanoes. So I predict by the end of the century, global warming and climate change will be solved, but the geopolitical challenges will be who's going to control that thermostat. Because the status quo for the temperature of the planet isn't optimal for all nations. Some may want it a little warmer, some a little cooler, based on their strategies and geopolitical desires. So that could be interesting. I was a history major at the University of Utah before getting an MBA, and in the 19th century, it was a horse-drawn century. Everyone knew how to ride a horse or saddle up a horse. Then in the 20th century, we were an automobile-driven century, where no one really knows how to ride a horse or saddle up a horse anymore, and horses are relegated to the world of sport and the rural lifestyle. We're going to see the same thing this century with autonomous-driven cars. A government official by the end of this century would be crazy to let a distracted, drunk, mere mortal actually navigate an automobile on a freeway when there will be so much exponentially safer vehicles to drive on that freeway. So you'll see by the end of this century where the human-driven automobile is relegated to the world of sport or the rural lifestyle, just like the horse. And finally, we are seeing some demographic shifts going on. We're seeing the birth rate falling in a lot of advanced nations below the 2.1 replacement rate, 2.1 children per household. Every day you wake up, there are less Japanese in the world. There are less Spaniards, there are less Italians, there are less Dutch and Danes and so forth. And we're seeing it where the global south still has a high birth rate. In fact, we're going to see by 2020 there will be more Latin Americans in the world than Europeans. The Vatican's already getting ready for this with an Argentine Pope, of course. But you're also seeing where nations will be crossing what I call the diaper point. This is because we are living longer, but we're having smaller families. Japan has already crossed the diaper point, which is to say they sell more adult diapers in Japan than children's diapers today. True, it's true, they do. So my last prediction is within 10 years, most of Europe will cross the diaper point. And within 15 years, the United States and Canada and Australia will also cross the diaper point. And what does that mean in a world where there's more adult diapers sold than children's diapers? It depends. Be sure to tip your servers. I'll be here all week. Thanks.